Good morning, everyone. This is Britt Simon here. How you doing? Thought I'd jump on live and take some of your questions. Happy to answer any questions you have on DV lottery, and I'm sure we can answer some of your questions. My last Q&A was cut short. I planned a shorter Q&A last time because my voice, my throat's been a bit sore. So a little bit better now. Hopefully I can make it through a normal length session and answer your questions for you. Anyway, so more than happy to take your questions. Let's see if anyone's around that wants to ask some questions. Yes, good morning to the first few of you, Victorine, George, Andre, and Janica. So, yeah, if you got any questions, trying to think if there's any topics I wanted to cover. We're 3 or 4 days away from having the CEAC data. I got a great message from someone this morning that's not even a winner, but that person understands the importance of the CEAC data and is getting hyped and excited for the CEAC data that we'll have on January the 1st. I'm always excited to see that data as well, I have to say. It will tell us a lot about how DV 2025 is going so far, but also the general information we need to know about where the highest case numbers are and that sort of thing. It'll either confirm or deny some of the assumptions we've made based on the case number survey that we did a few months ago. So we're looking forward to that. Anyway, let's take some of your questions. Let me get a throat lozenge at the ready here. I'll just suck on that. So let's see what questions you got. Mustafa says, what happened to VB? The visa bulletin will be published between the 8th and the 15th of the month, as it is every single month. Every single month I get questioned on this. Where is it? Why is it late? Blah, blah, blah. But it's always published between the 8th and the 15th, except with very rare exceptions where occasionally it's been posted a day or 2 days early, on the 6th or the 7th of the month. Sometimes it's been posted after the 15th of the month, but 95% of the time, I would say 90% of the time, it's between the 8th and the 15th of the month. It's just like that every month. So we just have to wait for that next visa bulletin. What it will say, I don't know. I don't have a prediction. I'm not going to do a prediction. I think anyone who makes a prediction at this point without any data is inherently unwise, because they have no data on which to base that, and so they're just plucking numbers from the sky. So I'm sure some people have made some predictions, but those predictions are they show the lack of understanding of the person more than they show anything about the data. Do you think the Muslim ban will come back? I don't know, in all honesty. I'm about to record a video about a topic which I think is somewhat related to immigration policy of the new administration, but it's not specifically about the Muslim ban. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I will say that up to now, I've not heard any talk about re-implementing the Muslim ban from Trump himself or from others close to Trump. So we'll see. May happen, may not. We just don't know. Do you think the selection is already done? Yeah, 100%. It's already done. We know that. We know that in previous years, the draw has already been done at this time. They're already processing. Yeah, for sure it's been done. Canty Joe, I have a 17-year-old but married. What should I do? I'm a winner of DV25 with case number 13,000. Okay, so you can't include that 17-year-old in your case because that child, 17-year-old child of yours, is married. They're no longer entitled to be included in your case, unfortunately. So no point in creating a DS-260 for that person because she or he is not eligible to be your derivative anymore. So yeah, there you go. What is the next hope if we don't win the DV 2025? Well, you can try diversity visa lottery again. Each year you can try it again, of course. But there are other ways of getting immigration to the USA. It can be work-based, where you have an exceptional skill, a skill that is desirable in the USA. That can get you to the USA. You can do family-based immigration, or you can try and go through one of the other routes, like education, and then which is a non-immigrant visa, and then later convert to an immigrant visa if you can find a way of doing that. Some people have successfully done that. Other than that, DV lottery is probably the best way. There is also refugee and asylum programs, but those programs are based on need. You can't just apply for asylum, for example, because you feel disadvantaged in your country. There has to be a legitimate fear that you're running from in order to warrant your asylum claim, right? So, but if you have a legitimate fear, then yes, asylum and refugee programs are also available to you. So, you can try those too. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and to you too. Thanks for the update. You're very welcome. I entered to US Colorado. Cool. Thanks for your interview answers. That helps me very much. Good. So not my interview answers, I have to say, but all the people over the last 10 years or so who've been adding their interview experiences at my blog, BritSimonSays.com. They've been adding their interview experience stories there, and that is a very valuable, very interesting resource for people to read and to see what the interviews are like. So I'm very grateful for everyone that does that, and I want people that have been through the program to consider adding their own story to that resource as well for everybody else. And when you do, add that. Give us a couple of details. Which embassy did you interview at? What country are you from? What was your case number? Right, roughly. What was your case number? It all helps people understand. And then give us an account of what questions you were asked, what the consular officer was interested in, or what they didn't bother looking at, whether they asked for an I-134 or other financial information. All of those are good things to list out. Very useful for other people. Okay. Is it possible to deport those who jumped out from Wall of Mexico? Okay, so yes, it's possible to deport people who enter the country illegally, and even if they've entered the country legally, but then overstay or don't comply with the terms of their visas, then those people can be deported too. Deportation is a real thing. It happens under all presidencies, right? I think it was Obama who is called the deporter in chief. He deported over 3 million people during his terms. So there have been a lot of deportations. So yeah, don't come through the southern border expecting everything to be just sweetness and light. If you don't have a genuine reason for coming here, you won't be allowed to stay. Question: the non-certified job by Department of Labor, yes or no? You do not have certification from the Department of Labor, but you don't need it. So the answer to that question is, the question is worded something like, are you coming here for to work and you have not yet received authorization from the Department of Labor? Something along those lines. And the answer to that is yes. It sounds like you're answering it badly. It sounds like you're going to cause problem. But if you think about what that question is really saying, the only logical answer to that is yes. I am coming to America to work, and I am coming without authorization from the Department of Labor, right? That's okay. For a DV lottery case, that question is irrelevant. But the most honest answer is yes, because you are coming without authorization. Okay, so answer it that way. The same thing, by the way, for the vaccination question. People question me about that. But again, the way the vaccination question is worded, it says something along the lines of, do you have vaccination documentation in accordance with US law? And the reality is, even if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have the paperwork that is in accordance with US law. And so the answer to that one should always be no. However, that is not a problem. It's not going to cause you a problem. Thanks, Tom. So you should answer that one. Again, it sounds scary to answer that way, but it's the right answer. Okay. Willart TV says, hi, Simon. I have 2K ACRA Embassy. I've been current for about 4 months now. When should I expect my 2NL? So your case number is very low. What I would do to you, if I were you, I would email KCC and check that you have been processed. If you have been processed, they should reply with a reply that says your case number is current for interview processing. That is what we call stage 4 or AV status. Okay. What that means is you've been added to a queue of people who have had their DS-260s processed and they are current at the ACRA Embassy. Now, at some point, you got added to that queue. During the month when you're added to that queue of people, they sort the other people during that one-time event per month. They sort all the cases in numeric order as they're putting them into the queue. But a case number of 2,000 does not go ahead of case number 4,000 if that case number 4,000 was added in a previous month. Okay, so they only sort by numeric number during the month when they're adding people to that queue. Okay, now your number then will wait until your position in that queue becomes available, right? And if your case wasn't processed for the very earliest numbers, it can mean that you will wait for a few months. But with such a low case number, as long as you submitted your DS-260 early, and I would say by May or June, possibly July of 24, then you should be okay, right? You should be able to get an interview at some time fairly soon. But I can't say exactly when that will happen. But in the first place, email KCC. Okay. I'm good with children. Can I get someone to sponsor me a nanny job in the US? I don't know, Violet. That's not what I deal with. I deal with DV lottery process, not nanny jobs. Tell us basic information on CEAC data, which helps us. I'll do a more comprehensive video once I've got the data. I'll show exactly what the data is and how it helps understand all of the data. I'll do a more comprehensive video on that in the coming days when we've actually got the data. But you can look at the existing CEAC data we have for previous years and to see all of the information we have from that. But I will, like I say, in a few days' time when we have the data, I'll explain exactly what that data really means, okay? Hi, Simeon. Can Trump do anything that could affect the current DV winners? Yes, he can. He can't just cancel the DV lottery program. Can't just do that, right? They have to bring, if they want to make a change to a law such as the DV lottery program, they have to bring forward some law to replace it. And bringing forward a law, having that law go through Congress, both houses, and then be signed by the president, that takes time, and it takes a process, and it needs agreement from a lot of people, right? It's not a quick thing. And so he can't just wave a magic wand and say the DV lottery program is no longer a thing. He can't do that. However, he can say things like, I want to increase the amount of background checking we do on all immigration cases. I want to do additional background screening. I want to cut down immigration to make sure that no bad people come into the country through immigration. is completely nuts because, of course, people that wanted to commit terrorist acts in our country would not bother going through an immigration process, waiting years for an immigration process. They wouldn't do that. They would just get a non-immigrant visa, which is much easier to get, and they'd come to the country and then they commit whatever heinous acts they want to commit, and that's it, right? They're not going to go through background checks and everything else to get immigrant paperwork processed. So, people might become radicalized once they're here, or they might be radicalized before they come here, but they're going to find different ways of coming into the country. They may not even bother with visas. They may just come some of the illegitimate methods to create the havoc they want to create. Okay, so however, I think it's likely that some measures will be enhanced in terms of background screening, and those measures could slow down processing for DV lottery. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Okay. No, I don't have any idea about the travel ban after Trump's inauguration. We have to wait and see. Prosciutto says, Prosciutto, that's a good name. EU 5000 2025, good. Just wanted to report that everything went smoothly, good. Oh, 500. Naples Embassy was great. Going to move in March. Awesome, very good. Well done, Prosciutto. Still like the name. In North Africa, the last visa bulletin was repeated, 22K. Does this affect the coming process? No. It's I've explained, this before. The number, let's say it was 22,000, wasn't it 22,500? Whatever it was. The number was 22,500, and then they repeated that number again. It doesn't mean that the process has ended, that the number can't increase from that point forward or anything else like that. It just means they repeated the number because they had enough people under the number that was already published the previous month. They had enough people that were still waiting for interview that they didn't need to increase that number at all. That's all it means. And so, no, it's not a big surprise, particularly when they started off with high numbers at the beginning. And then didn't schedule that many cases. We'll see how many cases they've scheduled when we get the data on January the 1st. Okay. Darucci says, what are the chances if the CO kept your passport after the interview while placing you on AP without requesting for no additional document? I can't tell you the chances, Darucci. That happens. What you're describing happens. It typically means that they want to do some additional background checking of some sort. They may ask you to fill in some additional questions for additional background checking to take place. They may not. It's up to them whether they ask you or not. If there was a document missing, they would have asked for that, but there was no document asked for in your case. And so it sounds like they just want to do some additional background checking. How long that will take, I don't know. I don't know what the percentage chances are in that situation. I don't have the data that says people in your situation from your country have a X% chance of approval. I don't have that. Okay. Let's see. I'm just skipping a couple of questions which are repeated. Why does nothing seem to be moving now from KCC side? It's been over a month now, and I'm still at stage 2 with case number AF20. It's not that nothing is happening. If you have a look at the official statistics, there were quite a lot of issuances in October. So higher than in DV 2023 or 24, actually. So they had a better October than it felt like. It felt very quiet, but it feels quiet at this time of year when actually there is activity happening in the background. Okay, that's just the way it works because not everybody yet is talking. Some people don't know that Telegram channels exist or that my blog exists or whatever, and so there isn't a lot of information being shared right now. It's just the way it is. It's very normal. It happens every year. Okay. Good morning, Simon. I'm from Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. I got my DV visa this week. Good. And also have planned to move to USA in February to March. But I've seen 3 USA universities scary of ban. CNN News. Yeah. You're right to be a bit scared. Yeah, probably in your position, I would probably be moving earlier than March. Frankly, I would probably be wanting to enter before January the 20th. If there's no way you can do that, well, you'll have to keep your fingers crossed and hope that nothing bad goes on, right? I don't really trust Trump, I have to say. But it's really up to you. I don't know your life position. And, I suspect that coming from Ethiopia, the cost of flights and that sort of thing is not like a small amount compared to what most people earn in Ethiopia, right? So it's not like you can just sort of come for a quick activation trip and then go back and that sort of thing. You probably don't think that's possible. So you have to do what you have to do. I mean, it's your choice at the end of the day. I mean, it would be safer to come before January the 20th. That's all I can say, really. CEAC. What about those in West African countries? I've been waiting for a long time. Do you believe that a cutoff can reach our case numbers? It depends on what your case numbers are. You haven't told me, CEAC, what your case number is, so we'll have to wait and see. Hi, Simon. I hope you're all better. Not 100%, I have to say. I'd like to know if the high school grades matter. Yes, they do matter in some countries. There is a general misconception about education levels, and the misconception is something like you have to simply attend high school in any country you like, and that will meet the education standard. That isn't the case at all, right? That's a misunderstanding. The rules of the lottery say that you have to be at the same level as a US high school graduate. Now, a US high school graduate, this is an American child of 18 years old would graduate US high school. And from that point forward, they can enter a college, which they call it a college, it's really university, where they can study a 4-year degree. That's the same level of degree, a bachelor's degree, same level that you can attend a 3-year course, for example, in the UK. But it's a bachelor's level course, and it's a university, which they just happen to call college. Well, so what is important is not the number of years that you were in school. It's related to a 12-year education standard in the USA, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have done 12 years in your own country. But also in my country, in the UK, high school finished at age 16, and that is not a high enough level to match what American kids call high school. Okay, in the UK, when school was finished at 16, when I went through school, you could come out of school at 16 with O levels or CSEs, right? And then if you wanted to, you could go to college, which was optional, and it was a further 2 years where you did A levels. And in order to enter university, you had to have done those A levels first. So in other words, you reach the age of 18, approximately, maybe 17, but usually 18. And, so you had done that additional 2 years and you had A levels, and then you could enter university. So in English schools, for example, high school by itself wouldn't be enough. You'd have to do high school and college, right? So depending on which country we're talking about, the terminology might be different. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in your country, in order to enter university, it may be required that you have, let's say, just as an example, 5 subjects at C grade or higher. And those 5 subjects must include 3 subjects which are considered core subjects, which would typically be English, math, maybe a science or something like that, right? They're considered core subjects. And so you can't have 5 courses, none of which include those core subjects. So the actual requirements vary country to country, and it is up to the local embassy to understand the education level in that country and to set the standard. And they occasionally change the standard year to year. They're entitled to change the standard. So don't just think that high school education is enough, and don't think that attending high school and getting nothing but F grades, for example, or only getting one course at a C and then the rest were Fs, that won't be enough. And if it isn't enough to get you into university, then it's not enough to meet the requirements for DV lottery either. Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, Lobos, Los Lobos. You're doing great. I have a low case number, but no 2NL yet. I'm worried about it. Ghana Embassy delaying. Yeah, Ghana Embassy is delaying. And yes, we had someone earlier with a 2,000 range case, and they're delayed as well. So at 4,500, you're also delayed. And yes, ACRA are delaying people, as they have done for the last 2 or 3 years. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's just one of those things. Okay. What are my thoughts on the Fiji embassy? It's an embassy that's been doing very well the last couple of years. I think they'll do well again this year. So yeah, we'll see. Kingstone, kindly briefly mention something about those who entered single due to lack of marriage certificate, but got married after selection and added the spouse. Does this limit chances? No, that's fine. As long as you were being truthful when you said you were single, and as long as you can prove that you've got a legal marriage that you undertook later, then you're fine. No problem at all. You've done the right thing if you do it that way. Okay. Can you send an email to KCC to request status of your AP? KCC don't know anything about your AP. The AP is between you and the embassy. Okay. If you're on 221G, which is what we should be calling AP now, KCC have no involvement in that. So no point in sending an email to KCC about that. Okay. Emmanuel, can I send an email to Ghana Embassy to get an update on the DV? I'm yet to receive my 2NL. I'm AF 14K. No, so let me flip this around. Daruji just asked, can he email KCC to ask about the 221G or AP, which he is involved in AP after an interview at an embassy, right? And my answer to him was no, because KCC have sent the case to the embassy and KCC are no longer involved in the case, right? You're asking a different question though. Your question is, can you email the embassy and you haven't been scheduled yet? Well, no, because KCC have your case at the moment and they haven't sent it to your embassy. So in your case, Emmanuel, your embassy doesn't know a damn thing about you. They have no idea that you're a winner. They don't know who you are. They don't care anything about you. There is nothing to do with your case at the embassy. There's no information about your case at the embassy. They have no influence on when your case gets scheduled. That's only to do with KCC. Okay, so once KCC have scheduled you, they lose control of the case. They have passed your case to the embassy. But until they schedule you, only KCC deal with your case, right? Now, you've yet to receive your 2NL. I have to say, you're in a very difficult, very dangerous position. Your case number at AF 14K is possibly too high based on how slow the ACRA embassy is going. And the only thing I can tell you to do is that you would be better off if you had moved to a different country and moved your case. And if you were listening to me a few months ago, I was very clear that I wanted people who are at your number range, below 5 to 10,000, your number range in Accra. I was saying, get the hell out of Accra, right? Get out of Ghana, because you're at a very difficult range. Now, unfortunately, your case may have been processed, your DS-260 may be processed, And if you email KCC now, they may respond to you saying you are current for interview processing, and that therefore they can't unlock your case or do anything with your DS-260. And that may be the case, in which case you are stuck in ACRA, and you will probably lose your chance because you didn't know about my channel or you didn't listen to what I said. That's the reality of it. I'm going to be very blunt with you. You're probably going to lose your chance. Okay. Now, the only way you might be able to avoid that is if you move to some other location, or you have very good reason to say, I'm going to be in this other location, this other country. And you can somehow persuade the embassy there to contact KCC on your behalf and get them to move your case to that embassy. Because if you stay in Accra, Ghana embassy, you're almost certainly going to miss out. That's the way it is. Okay. Lots of questions about Accra. Another question about Accra. Could happen that Accra will not schedule any case at all this fiscal year. They've already scheduled cases. We know they have. So no, that question's already been proven to be not true. They are scheduling cases, but they're only scheduling about 20 or 30 cases per month at most, which is all they've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. This isn't a surprise, guys. Accra Embassy's behavior is well known now. I've been saying about Accra Embassy's performance and behavior since May and June of this year for DV 2025. As soon as people were announced as winners, I've been warning people in Accra that Accra are going to screw up their cases. This isn't a surprise, and it's not something we can do anything about. We've tried suing bad embassies before. It doesn't work. They are entitled to go as slow as they want. So they may have a change in behavior, but we can't force them to change their behavior. I just hope people that are not yet current, that's people in Africa above 22,500, are listening when I tell them this that I'm about to say. Because if you don't listen, you are going to lose your green card. If you're in Accra and your number is higher than 22,500, you are still able to unlock your DS-260 right now, at the moment, okay? And if you are smart, you will listen to what I'm saying, and you will unlock your DS-260 and change your address to some other country. If you are not smart, you won't listen to me, and you'll believe that I'm just smoking dope or something, and you'll waste your green card. I don't know how to say it any more simply than that, right? It really is down to the smarticle particles. You've got to have smarticle particles to be able to discern who is telling me good information, who's telling me bad information. Probably your mate down the pub is telling you, oh, no, don't worry about Accra. Don't listen to that Brit Simon guy. He's just a YouTuber. What does he know? Well, I'm sorry, but I've been telling people the right information for years and years and years. And I'm telling you with all honesty now that if you are at a position where you can unlock your case, which is case numbers higher than 22,500 can for sure unlock their cases right now, and you choose not to, then you are choosing to allow Accra to screw your case up. That's what you're choosing. So don't choose that. Take my words to heart. I can tell you there are hundreds or thousands of people out there who I'm sure would say, yeah, I wish I'd listened to Brit Simon when he told us, when he warned us. So, listen or don't listen. I can't force you one way or the other, but, it's up to you. Can I bring USA my parents by green card? Mustafa, you have to give clear questions. I don't know what your situation is. Like, when you've got a green card, you can't bring your parents, as you say. You don't have a right to sponsor them for their own green card yet. When you become a citizen, which you have to be a green card holder for 5 years and live in America for 5 years. Once you become a citizen, then yes, you can sponsor your parents, and it's more or less immediate. It's within a few months you can get them a green card and bring them to live with you. But of course, you have to have the financial ability to do that. Because if you're going to bring elderly parents, how are you going to pay for their insurance? How are you going to pay for their medical expenses that they will surely have as elderly people? Okay, so you have to think about these things carefully. Can I apply for a re-entry permit right after coming to the US? You can, Stefan, but you have to stay in the States for a few weeks while you start the application. It's called an I-131 re-entry permit, and it gives you the right to stay out. Well, not the right; it's the wrong word to use, but it gives you permission to stay out of the country over 12 months and less than 2 years, right? So it gives you that ability to stay out for a longer period of time. But you have to stay in America while you start the application, which will take about 6 or 7 weeks or so. So you can start that application straight away, but you have to stay in America for that period of time. If you don't do that, you don't have to do that if you plan to come back to America within a few months anyway. You don't have to plan to do that. The green card is a permission to live and work in the USA. It's not a visitor's visa. So, you need to be playing by the rules and planning to live and work in the USA. Okay. Hands-on coding. What if Trump implements an unknown policy? Well, it's an unknown policy. Could that affect those DV selectees who have already become current for interviews? Yes, I've already explained this hands-on coding. I've already said what it could affect. It could affect the processing of cases. He can even implement a policy. He can close the borders. He can say that nobody is allowed to enter. He has the ability to do that. So even if you've been through the processing and you have a immigrant visa in your passport, but you have not yet activated it, and you activate it by coming to the country, even if you've got an immigrant visa, the president can and has, Trump can and has blocked entry to all people, even when they were holding immigrant visas. Okay, it's only once you've activated your status and you've become an LPR that you have some rights. The immigrant visa doesn't give you the right to enter if the president says you can't enter. Now he's done that before. So can he do that? Yeah, he can do that. I've already explained he can do that. Okay. Wanja. Hello, Britt Simon. Thanks for all your support. DV 2025 mum got a visa and is here in the USA. Didn't complete the DS-260 for the 10 years old. Why the fuck wouldn't you? Why would a mum not complete the DS-260 for the 10-year-old? Oh, dear me. Is it possible to have that child join her this fiscal year? I mean, that's extremely silly behavior, I have to say, Wanja. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. It is possible, but much more complicated. I mean, this person has made their situation much more complicated. But yeah, they can start a DS-260 for the child, and they could still, during the fiscal year, potentially, maybe get that kid to enter the USA before September 30th. Once the end of the year comes, then they have to go through an I-130 process, family-based immigration, which can take years. Okay, so I don't know what the reason was that this mum decided not to do that in the first place, but that was extremely unwise. If, by the way, this person, this mum, got the visa based on a lie, saying that they didn't have kids when they entered the lottery, they didn't mention this 10-year-old kid, or they completed the DS-260 for themselves and didn't mention the 10-year-old kid, then forget it. It's not going to work. That person, even with a green card now, even with being a resident of the USA, could be deported because of the lie that they originally told, if that's what they did, if they weren't honest about the existence of this child in the DV lottery entry. Okay, so be very careful about that sort of behavior. If they think that they were being clever and getting the green card, and then later they'll bring the kid that they hadn't mentioned in the lottery process, no, stupid thing to do, and that will get someone deported. Mustafa, you're asking a lot of kind of silly questions. Can I get out of the country if I have a green card? I heard that Trump will deny to get out of the country if you have a green card. That's total bullshit in every way possible. That statement is total bullshit. Trump has never suggested that he would do such a thing. It's not technically possible for Trump to do such a thing. And it's just some stupid nonsense that one of your mates or someone on the internet made up. It's bullshit. Sophie, hello sir, I got a baby girl after winning DV lottery, and she is now 3 months old. Can I 3 months old? Can I request unlock of the DS260 and include her details? Please advise me, sir. Yes, you have to. You have had a significant change in your circumstances. You are obliged, you are required to unlock your DS260 and add that child to your DS260. And if you've got any smarts at all, you'll also create a DS260 for that child, okay? But you are required to report the change of circumstances that you've had, okay, by having that baby. You should have done that months ago. You should have done that, the child is 3 months old. You should have done that 2.5 months ago. But you should certainly get off your ass and do it now, okay? Don't waste another moment. Get on with that, okay? You write to KCC to ask them to unlock your case immediately. You modify your own DS260 and that of your spouse, if your spouse has also implemented a DS260. And for the baby will need their own DS260. So you use the Add Applicant button on the DS260 to add another person to the case. Okay. Britt Simon, is interior design coordinator a good job title to use for someone who won the DV but didn't qualify through education but work experience, if the person did apprenticeship and is now working? It depends. So if you don't meet the education requirement, you can qualify still through work experience. But the type of work experience, so firstly, it's 2 years of work experience gained within the last 5 years immediately prior to the interview, right? And but the job that you show experience in has to be a job that you need at least 2 years of training or experience to perform that job. So you need to have done the job for 2 years, and that job needs to be a sufficiently high-level job that doing that job requires training or experience to do the job, right? So if this person did a 2-year apprenticeship, then maybe that would be meet the qualification. And the way to check that is to go to the website, the ONET online website, and check that. If you can't remember this, that's fine. Go to my blog or Google, better yet, Google the words Britt Simon work experience. Okay, 3 words, Britt Simon work experience. And you'll get to an article where I explain how to show that you've got the appropriate work experience, whether to check whether your job will be at the right level or not. Okay, go there. Sampson says, current address changed on paper, but not physically residing in the country. Is police report mandatory from that country if you are there for more than 6 months? Yeah, read the instructions, basically. So if you say that you live in country, if you actually live in country A, but you say you live in country B, and by saying that you live in country B for more than 6 months, you've created a requirement for the police certificate. You've now created yourself a problem. Okay, so that's the problem with lies. They tend to need, filling in with other lies, etc., and that's kind of a problem. So it's best not to tell lies. But if you are going to tell lies, don't be so silly as to tell a lie that causes a need for you to have a police certificate. Right? Use a little bit of common sense, right? But yeah, so I don't know what to say to you, really. I'll just leave it with you to figure out what you should be doing. Covert, what do you think about the Kigali embassy that hasn't offered any interview from October, and it has offered to announce the people under case number of 4K interviews scheduled in January and February? They are entitled to set their capacity. Sounds like they got off to a slow start. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. I also don't entirely believe everything I hear. I want to wait and see the CEAC data in a few days' time to confirm that that's really the case. Okay. Yinan says, hi sir, DV25 winner, but traveled China in 2019 and stayed for 6 months. Would I be asked for a police clearance certificate? Read the instructions for China. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that the instructions for the reciprocity page for China says that police certificates aren't available. And anyway, a previous country that you were previously at for only 6 months and less than 12 months, you wouldn't be required to provide the police certificate anyway. So read the instructions carefully and make sure that you would be required to apply for a police certificate for that country. And also read the reciprocity page, which is from the instructions for China, to see whether they provide a police certificate or not. Okay. Andre 95 Apple, what are our chances of winning? Considering I'm participating in the lottery using Bulgarian as place of birth and my girlfriend using the Italian one. Okay. You're both European, which means that you each have something like a 1 in 100 year chance of selection. Individually, that's the chance you have. If you consider yourself a couple, so that you know, if either of you won, you would immediately get married and both process, then obviously your chances are somewhat doubled. Statistically, actually, it's not exactly that, but individually, you've got a 1 in 100 chance of selection, roughly speaking, in most years. It can be a little bit more than that. It can be a little bit less than that, but that's roughly what it is, about 1%, which I state as 1 in 100 years. And the reason I say it 1 in 100 years, which is the same exact percentage as 1%, right? The reason I say that is to make it so clear that this is not a plan. It's an amazing chance that some people win and get selected. This isn't to be taken lightly at all. It literally is something that will only happen for most people 1 in 100 times that they try. And since you can only try 1 time per year, it's 1 in 100 years, right? Now, I do know people that are selected more than once, right? It's a random chance. So it's not impossible to get selected on your first try or on your second try, which is what happened with my wife. It's not impossible to try for 20 years and never get selected. It's not impossible to try and be selected 2 years running. That I know has happened to a number of people, right? It's a random chance, right? But statistically speaking, your chance of selection for each one of you is 1 in 100 years, okay? Okay. DV25 has a child who just turned 21 years and is expecting 2 NLs. What will happen to the now 21-year-old? Okay. You should Google the word Brit Simon, child turning 21. Okay. I have an article where I explain the impact of something called the CSPA, which is the Child Status Protection Act, on DV lottery. There is a period of time of protection that is added on to the age of an individual as they reach 21 to say whether they can remain as a derivative on their parents' case or not. Basically, it adds about 6 months. I explain the exact formula in this article, but it adds about 6 months of time onto the age. So if, let's say, somebody just turned, it's December now, right? Let's say somebody turned 21 on Christmas Day, December 25th. It would add 6 months. So they would be protected as long as they become current by June of next year. They would be protected during that time period. Now, that's not an exact calculation of the dates, but if you read my article, you'll understand better. But you are protected somewhat, or that child of 21 is protected somewhat, even in DV lottery cases. Some consular officers don't understand that formula, and so you have to be a bit careful to make sure you're properly prepared, because the embassy staff won't be prepared properly, or may not be prepared properly. They won't understand how it works. And so, you know, it is well worth going to my website and getting the information there and printing that information out the government memo that shows how this all works. Okay, it's worth doing that. Hi Simon, I'm 57 years old and 1 DV25. Is my age a disadvantage? No, it's not really a disadvantage. So you won DV25, and that proves that it wasn't a disadvantage in the selection process, because the selection process, of course, is random. They don't consider your age when you're being selected, right? Now, the next thing to consider is how successful will you be as an immigrant? And that really is a very personal situation. Are you a 57-year-old with no money to your name? Have you never had a job? Or you've only ever had casual jobs, right? That will be a worse situation than if you're 57 years old and you've been very successful in work, and you're obviously going to get another job in America, and you're going to bring some money to America to establish yourself, be able to buy a home and that sort of thing. So your situation may be important, and the CO, the consular officer, is entitled to consider some of those factors when they consider whether or not you're a suitable applicant to be able to emigrate into the USA. And the suitability aspect comes into it in the whether you'll become a public charge or not. So it's mainly a financial concern. Okay, so be prepared when you go to the interview to show how you are going to support yourself in the USA. Do you have friends or family in America that will help you? Are you very independently wealthy? Are you in an extremely lucrative career that is very well paid and has very good job prospects in the USA? Those things will make a difference, okay? And so you should be prepared to show those differences, okay? Okay. I'm a DV25 winner, but when I fill this old photos I submitted 1 year ago in DV24, that did affect me the film. Terrible English, but Abdi, the instructions literally say not to do what you did. I mean, I'm like, I tell people all the time, follow the bloody instructions, and then you come in and say, oh yeah, I used the same photo again. Luckily for you, although they implemented a rule in 2017 that said you must not use the photo from a previous year's entry in your next entry, even though they implemented that rule in 2017, and they say in the instructions year after year, don't do that. Even though they say all that, I've never ever heard of an applicant being disqualified for the reason that you said, right? So you'll probably be okay. But next time, when someone gives you instructions, or when you are entering a lottery or doing something like that, just follow the bloody instructions, would you? Just literally just read the instructions and follow them. It's so much easier in life to just follow the instructions. Don't make it difficult for yourself. Robert Kennedy. Oh my God. Are you working for Trump? I'm in Canada, but I play DV25 and I'm a Liberian. Is it possible for me to be eligible for the lottery? Yes. The fact that you live in Canada doesn't make any difference. You process in Canada. So your interview will be as a Liberian and held in Montreal. It's fine. No problem with that. Okay. Fastos. Hi, Simon, from my own house. Nice to see you. Congratulations, Vasto, on your comfortable house, I'm sure. You're making good progress. Oh, I've already answered that one. Nian Lin says, how long does it usually take to get a passport back after the DV interview for a regular process without any errors? Weekends can be counted in. Typically about a week, but yes, weekends tend to extend that a little bit, right? So it might take a week or 10 days thereabouts. Some places it can be a couple of days. I've even heard of people going back the very next day to pick up their passport, but so it can be quite quick. Okay. Waguti says he's happy that I'm doing a live session on Saturdays. That's good. What to do next after winning the DV lottery? Well, you process, right? So you win the lottery, you fill in your DS-260, you wait for your case number to become current and for your DS-260 to be processed. You attend an interview, you pay the fees, you have to do a medical interview, then you hopefully get approved, you move to America, you establish yourself in America and so on. It's a simple process. Sounds like it, right? There's a bit more to it than perhaps I've just suggested, but yes, it is. It is a pretty straightforward process. And I'll tell you this, there is no easier way to get a green card than the green card lottery. Green cards are hard to get. And the green card lottery is an amazingly easy way to get the green card. But even the green card lottery still has some checks and balances and some hoops that you have to jump through. And it takes time. It can take between 6 months and 18 months. For you to be waiting for your interview. Some people go for their interview and they're kept waiting for months after that while additional background checks are being done. There's all levels of background checks. There's a lot to it, right? You have to meet requirements such as the education or work experience requirement. You mustn't lie during the process. There's a lot to this process in some senses, but in another way, if you just follow the bloody instructions, it's a simple process, and you can get your green card faster than any other way of doing it. So there you go. Khalid says, "Thank you, Simon, for the knowledge you are sharing with us. You're amazing." Thank you for that, Khalid. That's nice, kind words. Lynn says, "My case number is 33K in Nairobi, Kenya. When do I expect the 2NL?" Okay, Nairobi is a bit of an interesting case. Nairobi is one of the powerhouse embassies in Africa. In years gone by, they were okay, they were average, but in the last, I would say, couple of years, they have basically doubled their processing capacity, and they became one of the powerhouses. They're a really important embassy. However, in October, they issued, I think, 6 visas, almost nothing, right? And so they've got off to a bit of a slow start, and we've had reports that they haven't scheduled cases all the way up to 22,500. But I'll say this for Nairobi, they are able to catch up very, very easily, and they've done that amazingly well in the last couple of years. So don't count them out. So in terms of your case, Lynn, you firstly have to wait for your case number to be processed, your DS-260 to be processed, and for your case number to be current. It's not current yet, so the earliest you can get an interview will probably be March, maybe more like April. But hopefully at that point we've got Nairobi performing well and taking lots of interviews by that time. So fingers crossed, but you'll have to wait and see. Okay, Lynn, good luck. Stefan says, "I'm a pharmacist." Thanks, Simon. We'll come here and sort my throat, please, Stefan. I got a sore throat, which I don't help by talking, and I've done too much talking today, as my daughter pointed out. 16-year-old daughters, man, they are brutal for pointing out when you talk too much. Okay. Wondra says, DV selectees, here we go, sorry. DV selectees should prepare to face American challenges, culture shock, and mental health. Yep. Be prepared to learn, relearn, and love yourself first. Self-care is very important in America. I think it's all very, very true. Wise words. It's not easy. Perhaps we'll wrap this up actually with this point. I think it's an excellent point, Wondra, that you're making here. It's hard coming to America. It's very hard. I've known people, very, very successful people, who've come here and struggled. And sometimes perhaps even they've struggled more than other people who bring less or have got less. Because if you've got less, you tend to have less expectations, and everything is, you expect things to be hard, but they are hard, and so you work through it, right? But I know people who've come here and they've really struggled to get jobs, and they've struggled to find the food that they like and they're used to, and they can't find the church they want to be involved with, or which is a strange one because there's tons of churches, right? Maybe they don't feel like they can fit into the community. There's all sorts of challenges people go through, right? And everything is new. How do you enroll your kids in school? How do you find a doctor? How do you visit the doctor if you are sick? You know, how do you get a job? How do you pay your taxes? How do you file for your taxes every year? What is this tax report we have to do every year? How do I get a driving license? How do I open a bank account? There's a ton of just, you know, things that you have to learn that if you were living in your own country would not seem such a big deal. But because they're in a new country, everything is much harder because it's new to you. Local people, Americans, don't struggle with it as much as we struggle with it because they're used to it and their family are used to it. And everyone says, oh, you got to get a driving license. Yeah, you go down the DMV and, you know, here's a quick way to do that. And so they know the ins and outs, right? But they know the shortcuts to things. They know how to deal with things, and they know when something is going to be just boring and stupid, and they're just prepared for that. But there's other times when you're just going to be knocked over with like amazement at how inefficient some of the things are. I think that's probably one of the biggest shocks. You're going to be surprised how dopey and how lazy and how stupid some of these processes and things are in America. The fact that America is such a world power is at times surprising when you get to see how disorganized and dopey things are here. You'll be amazed. You probably think that America is the best country, the most organized country in the world and everything else. Absolute bullshit. I would put European countries ahead of America in so many ways in terms of organization and processes and politeness and all sorts of things, right? Education, all sorts of ways. But America, despite all these problems and annoyances, still does well and still is a place where there's incredible opportunity. And so if you come here with the right mental attitude, and you are prepared to work hard and do a bit extra and find the ways of working legally and you know, and making a success of yourself, you can do more here than you can do in any other country in the world. You can succeed more here than any other country, right? It is hard. I mean, I'm from the UK, and I worked in Europe. I traveled around Europe working. I have family in Spain. I worked in Switzerland. You know, I've had a career in other countries. I've seen incredibly well-run countries, etc. But there has never been a country that I've found where the opportunity is as great as in America. But there are some frustrations here. But all I can say is that if you come here with the right mental attitude, you will be head and shoulders above the average here. If you're average in your own country, particularly if you're coming from Europe, and you're average in that country, you will be above average in America because average in America is pretty low. And when you're above average here, and if you come here with the right mental attitude and you come here to work hard, you can do very, very well here. And so, you know, it's a tremendous country in that way. But it's not for everyone. I have to say, it's not for everyone. Some people will struggle. And so you do, as Wanja is pointing out very wisely here, self-care is very important. You have to be prepared to learn and relearn things. Love yourself. That's all important stuff. It's very good advice. But, you know, you have to take the rough with the smooth, as they say. Okay. Okay. I'll leave it there. My daughter tells me I go on for too long, so I probably have done that already. So thanks for joining me today. Sorry if my throat was sounding a bit weird, but I'm getting better. So a couple of weeks' time, I should be all done again. I'll be back to normal. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up, like on this video if you can, please. And if you have any questions that I didn't get to today, ask them please at britssimonsays.com. All right, everybody, have a good day. Bye-bye.